Hello, sweet parents. Welcome to the When Our Adult Children Walk Away podcast. My name is Dr. Janet Steinkamp, and during each episode of When Our Adult Children Walk Away, I will provide my professional and personal insights, information and opportunities for your self-reflection and growth, tips and tricks to make every day count, and encouragement to keep moving forward. I'm here to help you dig deep and get down to the root causes so that you can find your way out of the darkness to a positive and lasting relationship. Grab your notebook and a pen, settle into your favorite chair, and let's get to it. In this episode, we are continuing the conversation around high-risk days. We're looking at this a little differently in that we are looking specifically at social events on high-risk days. We're going to talk about the differences in how parents consider whether they go to social events, especially events where there are family members or where there are people in common between you and your adult child. And we're going to look at the reasons adult children consider whether they go or not. And then I want to talk a little bit about how a person can say yes to social events and how people can say no. So we're going to look at the differences in what we consider as parents and adult children. We're going to look at ways to determine if you're going to say yes, like what are the conditions, and then we're going to look at ways you can say yes and ways you can say no. Okay, so let's get started. For estranged parents, why would we say yes? Like under what pressure or what conditions would we even consider saying yes? One might be that we have pressure from family and friends. They want to see us. They want us to be there. Oh, we just can't celebrate this without you. We need you there. They're wanting you there for their needs, and they're wanting you there because they think they can meet your needs. Another reason might be fear of judgment. You can't handle it. You're letting this separation from your adult child overwhelm you and take over your life. Don't let them affect you like that. You'll show them. You just will go anyway and have a great time without them. There are all kinds of things people say to get us places, right? We may want to say yes because there are other people grieving and we want to be with them. We feel like we can help them with their grief. We may be balancing the sense of obligation with our need for self-care. Is it worth staying home and taking the judgment and the grief other people give us to take care of ourselves? And then there's guilt about prioritizing our own selves, right? For parents, that can be a real deal. How do we take care of ourselves when other people are used to us being caretakers? Or, in a different way of looking at that, when we take care of other people, it meets a need for us too. A need to be needed. A need to make sure other people appreciate us. So how do we balance that with our own needs around high-risk days in particular? For our adult children, they are looking at the fear of being trapped and the obligation or the pressure of family expectations. When they cut ties or anywhere on that continuum of estrangement, they're trying to sort out which family expectations fit for them and which no longer fit. They're trying to sort through their own identity with and without the family. The other thing about deciding to go or not for adult children is that they don't want to be put in a situation where they have to defend their decision. They don't want to have to be pressured to reconcile before they're ready. There are a couple of really good podcast episodes, at least I think they're good. That's the feedback I get from people. I'm not trying to be arrogant. There are a couple episodes that might help you with this concept. One of them is about flying monkeys, and the other is about busybodies and how to manage both. I would go and take a listen to that so you can understand this concept of what the adult children are worried about in relation to going to family events. That also affects you negatively. So we hope they're considering that. We hope that they are taking that into consideration beyond our own behavior, because both busybodies and flying monkeys can reflect poorly on us, and the adult children will, at least this is what the research tells us, they blend or blur those people's actions with our negative intentions, meaning they think we've sent them. We've sent these people to act on our behalf. That's the default belief. And so we hope our adult children are considering that they may feel pressure to reconcile before they're ready. We don't want them to feel that. We want them to be ready. We want them to be open-minded, open-hearted, ready to discuss and hear us, to share with us. So we hope that that's what they're doing. And saying no can help them maintain their boundaries. They've worked hard to get to this point of estrangement. I know that that's a mind-blowing concept. I know it. And I'm sure there are plenty of you who are ready to just turn off this podcast right now. I'm just telling you the reality of what our adult children tell us. We need them to be ready to come back and reconcile, just like we need to be ready to reconcile. Another thing that our adult children are looking at when they're deciding whether to go to social events where they might see us, where we might have friends in common, and that is to avoid emotional triggers. Our adult children tell us that there are triggers all over the place: smells, sights, foods, rituals, prayers. There are all kinds of things that trigger them to go back to their childhood and re-experience the things they're trying to get away from. So they're thinking about that before they accept that wedding invitation or that invitation to a family dinner or whatever the event is. Our adult children are looking at whether they can navigate interactions to their siblings, to their extended family. If they're estranged with one parent, they're going to be concerned about the second parent. If they are estranged from a parent and an adult child, a sibling, they're going to be worried about the other siblings, the grandparents, ex-wives, ex-husbands of our parents, in-laws. They are going to look down that whole list of guests and determine whether they are up to navigating all that. We're thinking about navigating a contact with them. We're also thinking about navigating the pressure and judgment of other people, the busybodies. But they are considering navigating all of that. Then they're also weighing all of this with the guilt of not attending. If I don't go, am I inflicting pain on people that don't deserve it? I'm not mad at anybody else. I haven't cut anybody else off. And last but not least, if your mind hasn't already been blown, this one's going to blow your mind. It's the fear of what if. What if not going closes the door forever? Now, this is your adult child I'm talking about. They also fear that the door will get closed, that the light will get turned off. I was talking to a mom the other day whose second husband had just passed away. And she was saying before he died, when they knew the end was imminent, she asked him if he wanted her to reach out to his estranged adult children, 2 children who he had not had contact with for 10 years, not by his choice, but by their choice. And he said, I don't think I do. They've been gone 10 years. He wasn't angry. He just was being practical. I don't think I want to kick that hornet's nest right now. I want to die in peace. So he passed. And then she was left with the task of calling them and telling them that he had passed, which, a little bit like being left holding the bag. However, she had agreed to it. And what she was sharing with me was her shock over their response. How do you think they responded? Well, let me tell you. She called and said that her husband had passed, and they fell apart, were devastated, fell to the ground, could hardly catch their breath. The reason they were so upset was because the opportunity no longer existed. The chance to reconnect was gone forever. They thought they had unlimited time. It hadn't occurred to them that he would die. He was a younger man, and they just thought time was unlimited, I guess. That is not an unusual response from adult children who've been cut off for years. I have adult children come to me. I actually have parents and adult children come to me as they approach the end of life. So maybe a parent's getting into their 80s, the adult child's getting into their 60s, and they realize that their opportunities are fewer and fewer. And I'll hear things like, I don't want this to be the end. I don't want to die not knowing, or at least having tried to reconnect. I have adult children say to me, I don't know what happened, but my mom or dad cut me off. I don't know what happened. They're still in touch with the other children or my siblings. I want to know more about what happened. What did I do? What was wrong with me? Those are really difficult conversations, although as people age, they often become more open to the dialogue, more open to considering and listening and forgiving. Let's move on now and talk about when you should say yes. Under what conditions are you able to feel strong enough to and safe enough to accept an invitation? Saying yes to a social event on a high-risk day can be a healthy choice. It can be risky. It can be both. And it's worth considering. So here's some thoughts. One of the reasons you might want to go to a social event is simply because you want to go. You like these people. You love the celebration, the rituals, and you want to go. You don't have to attend out of obligation. You don't have to go because other people feel like you should, or they will judge you if you don't. You can go if you want to. You can decide not to go if you don't want to. You might decide to go to an event, to say yes to an invitation, if you think the event offers you emotional support. Maybe it's your closest circle of friends or family, and you know that they know what's going on, they understand, they're not judging you, they're really supportive of you, and it's a safe space. You might want to go then and say yes. You might want to say yes when there's an opportunity to create new memories. Maybe it's a new hiking group and nobody knows you, but it's on a high-risk day. So what a great opportunity to go and create new memories. In some ways, that helps you reclaim that day. It helps you reverse some of the scary sadness and start to integrate new positive emotions on that day. Another reason you might want to say yes is that being with people outweighs the isolation. Sometimes just being with other people in the same space can be very healing. I remember my son had to get rid of a cat. There was a breakup and there was some discussion about the cat, and the cat didn't stay with him. And I said to him, how are you doing? How does it feel not to have anybody around you? And he said, I don't really miss the cat necessarily, but I miss knowing there's another heartbeat nearby. I thought that was so profound. Sometimes you just want to be with people. Maybe you go to the grocery store that day. Maybe you go to the mall shopping. Maybe you call a friend or someone who you haven't seen for a long time and ask them to go grab dinner or a cup of coffee and not talk about any of this. Just to be with someone. And of course, you like their company, I'm sure. Another reason you might want to say yes is that there's an event that isn't centered on family dynamics. Maybe your supervisor is getting an award. The award ceremony happens to fall on a high-risk day, and you go to that. You choose to go because it's not your family. They're not likely to be talking about your family. You wouldn't necessarily be bringing an adult child to the event, and so they won't be missed by other people. And it's a great way, again, to bring in positive energy and start infusing constructive memories into that day. Another reason you might choose to go to an event on a high-risk day is because you have an exit plan. So you know your time is limited. You have 1 hour, and then you've got to be someplace else. So you can make an appearance. You can manage the conversations for, maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's 15, but you make an appearance. You feel good about making the appearance. You've seen the people that you love or care about or work with or whatever the circumstances are. And then you have an automatic way to get out of there. And the last reason that I want to share with you, and I'm sure there are plenty more, these are the reasons that came to mind for me, is that sometimes saying no causes more regret than you want to take on board. Saying no causes more loss and sadness than saying yes. The risk of having to navigate tough conversations, keeping people at arm's length, identifying the busybodies before they get to you, that is less of a concern than the regret you would have by not going. What comes to mind for me is of a wedding or a funeral in particular. Those are once-in-a-lifetime events that can't be replicated. And going to those events may give you more of a sense of positive energy than the negative of not going. There's a short list of reasons why you would say no when you don't want to say yes. So here's the short list. Out of guilt or obligation, you don't owe anyone. On high-risk days, you don't owe anyone anything beyond your own decision-making. The obligation cannot outweigh your mental health, your physical health, and your wellness on that day. Don't say yes just to avoid disappointing someone. They can live with disappointment. You need to put yourself first on high-risk days. Don't say yes. Please don't say yes if there are going to be so many emotional triggers there that you just don't have the strength, the fortitude to get through the event without some kind of negative outcome that results in regret. Don't go. So what comes to mind is if you're someone who's working on cutting back on alcohol and it's going to be a high trigger event and there's alcohol present, maybe you don't want to go. Maybe it's not worth the risk of drinking too much. Maybe the pressure to drink would be too much. Will there be triggers there that are going to be too much to navigate? And then the last thing on my short list is if attending the event risks your emotional stability. Will going to the event put you into an emotional spiral? Think about those things realistically. Be honest with yourself. And then don't go. If that's a risk, don't go. Here are a few ways to say yes to an event. How do you say yes to an event that build fences that protect you? Here are a few ideas of how you can say yes to a social event and set clear boundaries so you can manage expectations and manage how much energy it's going to take for you to attend. So one way to say yes would be something like, oh, thanks for the invitation. I'm so glad you thought to include me. I'd love to come. I may only be able to stay for a little while, but I'm really looking forward to coming and seeing everyone. So you give yourself that back door. Here's another one. Wow, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'd love to be there. I've been having some headaches lately, so let me see when the day comes a little closer to see how I'm feeling. But I will do everything that I can to be there. It sounds like a lot of fun. Here's another one. I'd love to come. I'd love to be there. I'd love to see everybody. I might need to leave early, but I'm looking forward to it. Very much like the first one. Here's another one. Thanks for thinking of me. I'm so honored that you would include me and flattered. I'm really taking things day to day right now because I've got a lot of stuff going on. Would it be okay if I let you know a little closer to the date? So you leave it up to them. If they need to know right then, you might want to default to not going. If you can buy yourself more time to weigh the options and see how you are feeling as it gets closer, that would be great, right? All right, you get my point. There are ways you can say yes that ensure you have a back door. All right, it's probably time to wrap up this episode. So just to recap, make sure that you consider why you're saying yes. And if you want to say yes to an invitation, consider how you say yes to an invitation. And if you want to say no. Also keep in mind, please, as you move through your high-risk days, that your adult son or daughter is likely also having a high-risk day. They are having to decide whether they go or not to. When there's a common event where there will be in common people or family, close friends, they are also deciding whether they go or not. Your decision may be as simple as, I'm not ready to see them. And if you feel safe and confident asking if they're going to be there, there's always the chance that they may show up. You don't know that. And so if that wild card is enough for you to feel unsafe and that you can't manage the event, don't go. Don't go. Come up with an alternative plan. And there's an episode on strategies to survive high-risk days. I would encourage you to listen to that episode regardless of whether you decide to go to an event or not. I think it's good information and gives you perspective on how to navigate those days. I hope there was information in this episode that resonates with you, that you found of value. And I'd encourage you, if you did, to share this episode with other people who might benefit from it. And then go over to the When Our Adult Children Walk Away website. You can schedule an appointment with me. I offer 15-minute complimentary calls. And last, consider subscribing to the podcast. There are a number of episodes that are premier content. Those topics tend to be maybe a little more dicey or a little bit more controversial. And I take deeper dives into many of these other topics. Thanks for joining me for this conversation. And I hope you'll check into the other episodes as well. Until next time, remember, you are not alone.